This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is November 11th, 2024. It is Veterans Day. So first of all, we wish everybody happy Veterans Day, and a special thank you to all the veterans. We thank you for your service and hope you all have a great day. My name is Jonathan Osborne. I am joined by my co-host, as usual, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, back in the win column. What's going on, man? How are you?
It's amazing. You know, the highs and the lows of the season. Last time you and I were on here, losing streak, all those things. And then ever since, just been wins. Amazing what some home cooking can do for you. First, I want to echo what Jonathan said. Big shout out to those who served our country. Appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful day today and feel honored. And then secondly, I just want to take like 20 seconds, maybe 60 seconds, just to update everybody, just because, this community has been awesome. For those that weren't around maybe in the off season, maybe just hopped on once the season started. I had some pretty major surgery back in September. And so I just thought, just give like 20-second update on how I'm doing. Like I sit here and talk with you for, a couple hours a week and people listen to that. But this is kind of easy to do, once, in spite of everything that's happened, sitting here and talking is relatively easy. The rest of life is a little harder, but the update is I'm going back to work this week. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's hard to believe it's been 8 weeks since the surgery, but going back to work this week. I'm still not 100% yet, obviously. Like, there's still a long way to go. I start cardiac therapy next week, which is like 12 weeks of kind of, supervised exercises and things like that to get my heart and lungs back up to 100%. So hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months, I'll be 100%. Not quite there yet, but feeling good. Like I said, going back to work is a big milestone, but just kind of wanted to give everybody a little bit of an update on that.
Well, I know I speak for everybody when we say that we are glad to hear that you are still doing well and going to be going through the next steps of recovery. It doesn't sound like that's going to be a ton of fun, but we all know that it ultimately is going to be best for you. So
for sure,
have fun with that. We are still selling tickets to our group night that is coming up on December 19th as the Magic take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. That game is going to be on TNT, nationally televised game. If you came to our group night last year when we played OKC on TNT, that game was a blowout. That was the night that we retired Shaq's jersey at Kia. So we're hoping that this will be like a revenge game of sorts. So we're selling tickets. So far, we sold 93 tickets to this game. So there's going to be a lot of Magic fans there. We're sitting in sections 101 and 102, like over near the OKC bench. So we just want diehards that love this team that are going to come out and cheer and just help change the atmosphere of that game. And if you were one of the first 100 tickets purchased, you are also going to get access to come with us to watch pregame warmups, obviously, prior to the game. So we sold 93. That means there are 7 left. So if you want to take advantage of that, go ahead, get your tickets. Like when you compare the prices from this link that we're sharing, basically you're in a lot of cases saving like 50% as compared to like Ticketmaster. So if you want to join us, you can head over to fivo-enterprise.com/event/6man65. We're going to put the link in the description on the podcast platforms and on the YouTube video. So don't worry about typing that in. If you're listening to this on the pod, just go to your podcast app. The link is going to be there. You can just click on that on your phone. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description. You'll just be able to click it right from there. So looking forward to that. And then we've been being asked when's the next episode of the Sixth Fan Show. The next episode of the Sixth Fan Show, where Ben hangs out outside of Kia after Magic home games and just gets reactions from Magic fans. It's always a lot of fun. That's going to be this Tuesday, actually. The Magic are taking on the Charlotte Hornets at home as part of their first group game in the NBA Cup. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're going to that game, make sure you find Ben outside of Kia, usually over by like the box office area, recording all that kind of stuff. So I'll be on the lookout for that. Kev, let's talk a little bit about the NBA Cup, because to be honest, it's been almost a year since we had NBA Cup games, and I kind of had to go back and read like how all of this stuff is going to work. So if you're not familiar, you weren't paying attention to last year, what was called the NBA in-season tournament. Now it's the Emirates NBA Cup. We're just going to call it the NBA Cup. Emirates is not paying us, of course. If they want to, holler
I was
at
about
your
to say,
boys.
if Emirates, they got some money, so if they want to pay us, we'll call it whatever they want us to call it.
If you're listening, hit us up. But the NBA Cup, so basically there are 3 groups in each conference. There's a West Group A, Group B, Group C, and there's an East Group A, Group B, Group C. The Magic are in the group with the New York Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Philadelphia 76ers. So over the course of the next couple of weeks, basically the entire NBA, they're going to be playing in these NBA Cup games. And for the Magic, they are playing the 76ers and the Hornets at home, and then they'll go to Brooklyn and New York to play, their final couple of in-season tournament games. So just be on the lookout for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. But the way the NBA Cup works is that, again, you play each team in your group, and then whatever team finishes at the top of that group will move on to the knockout round. So there's going to be 6 teams that automatically advance, and then there's going to be a one wild card team, I believe it is. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's one wild card team from each conference that's going to move on. And basically that's going to be whatever team finished with the best record that finished second in their group. And then there's some tiebreaker, scenarios. One of the big ones that we found out last year is going to be point differential. So your point differential in group play is going to be head-to-head record will be the first tiebreaker. So if us and the Knicks both finished 3-1 in that group, whoever won their head-to-head matchup will win that tiebreaker. Last year, if there are multiple teams, where we was it Chicago and Brooklyn, or not Chicago and Boston, or there was Boston and one other team that we basically had a 3-way tiebreaker with, and it came down to the point differential, and Boston moved on because of the point differential last year. Beyond point differential, it goes down to total points scored in group play, and then after that, it goes from your record based off of last year's regular season, and then after that, it's like some kind of random drawing. Odds are it probably doesn't get to that third and fourth tiebreaker, but that is potential. Then you move on to the knockout rounds, which is all just like single elimination games. The quarterfinals are December 10th and 11th, and then the semifinals are played on December 14th, and then the championship is played on December 17th. Kev, is it the same as last year where the semifinals and the championship are played in Vegas? What are they doing this year?
Yep, same thing as far as that goes. The schedule's a little bit different as far as like the space between some of those games, the not the semifinal, the quarterfinal before it, But yes, the semifinal, final are in Vegas. Another thing that's kind of cool about this, and the Magic we'll see in the very next game, the courts are different for NBA Cup games, which is pretty exciting. So Tuesday, whether you're going to the game or watching it on TV, you'll notice a brand new court, which is kind of crazy. It's only used, for 2 games, basically, unless you host one of those quarterfinal games. But it looks pretty cool this season, especially. Last season's, some people liked it, some people didn't. But this season, I think it's pretty cool. The Magic's at least with the stars and the circles and everything, so that'll be fun. How do you feel, Jonathan? So last season, I'm trying to remember our schedule last season. We had a game, and then it was on the road first. We started in Brooklyn, and then later we turned around and had the home games, and then we finished on the road, I think it was. Regardless, it was more spaced out. This year, both home games within 4 days or whatever it is, right in a row. Do you like that? Do you not like that as much? Have you thought about that at all? I think it's kind of interesting that the Magic have both of their home games Tuesday and Friday of this week.
Yeah, I really haven't put much thought into it, right? Like last year, I think it was Brooklyn that we lost to in that first.
Right, on the road, yep.
Yeah, for some reason, like I was trying to say Boston, but Brooklyn was coming to mind. And I was like, wait a minute, no, it was Chicago. But no, we won in Chicago. That was either, I don't remember if that was the Franz or the Paolo game winner. We had a couple of those in Chicago last year. But no, so yeah, you lost to Brooklyn. We weren't really paying attention to the point differential in that game. And then that really came into effect when Boston was running it up on Chicago. That's what that ended up being. So right. I don't know. I haven't put too much thought into like the way that the schedule. I'm kind of indifferent. Like we don't have Paolo. At least this week we don't have Paolo. Who knows what's going to happen as we get further maybe into that tournament. But without Paolo this week, Charlotte, they've been a little bit better than I think I anticipated this year. Philadelphia, obviously, they're going to be without Tyrese Maxey. Who knows? With Joel Embiid, I think he's going to be off the suspension. by that
he's
point.
supposed to be back by then, yeah.
Yeah, so Joel Embiid. Paul George hasn't exactly panned out the way that they had hoped so far to start the season. Like, he had a wide open lane to like a game-winning layup tonight against the Charlotte Hornets. They were playing in overtime.
16 seconds left in overtime. I'm watching it.
So that game is still going on. But Paul George had a chance to win that game in regulation and just decided to dribble out and settle for a three. But I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent to the way that schedule breaks down. What about you? Do you have any thoughts about it?
In part, I like it because it is part of this homestand. And so that part is nice. If they were isolated, one-off home games, I probably wouldn't like it as much. But because it's contained in this homestand where, I feel like we're getting some momentum, I think it's cool. Regardless, though, we talked about this way back when the schedule came out. The fact that we're playing the final night of the Cup across the league, as far as the group play, final night of the Cup, we're playing at MSG on TNT is wild. So obviously, if there's anything on the line there, let's say both teams are 3-0, that's going to be spicy, And even if they're not 3-0, if there's something on the line, playing at MSG, with something on the line on TNT, that's going to be fun. But no. For this week, I'm excited. 3 home games in a row, 2 of them NBA Cup games. It's going to be fun.
So basically, we got the news about Paolo's, the oblique, like really late October 31st, like Halloween, and we recorded that night, right? They said 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
If it's 4 and he's and they said reevaluated, obviously not returning. But if he's reevaluated and then comes back on TNT and MSG against the Knicks, like, what better way to do it other than obviously December 19th against OKC, also on TNT?
Mm-hmm.
But like the Magic are 2-1 or they're 3-0 in their group games, which is very possible, right?
Very possible.
You're at home. If you can beat Charlotte and Philadelphia, fully expect us to be able to go into Brooklyn and get a win, even though Brooklyn is also a team that maybe not record-wise is a lot better than we thought, but like they're just feisty. Like we saw that, the home opener. And then like if you're 3-0 or 2-1 and you're going to that New York game with a chance to move on and then, oh my gosh, that's Paolo Banchero's music. That would be like they're about to tip off and then all of a sudden Paolo Banchero just walks out of it. Like that would never happen because
Willis
you have to
Reed,
list, you have to list these guys as available, a few hours before the game. But, maybe we should change NBA injury report rules so that you could have more dramatic like game time entrances like that.
Sign me up, man.
It wouldn't happen in MSG, but like if you're in Kia Center and then like you're getting ready to like name the starting lineup and all the lights go out and then it's like, here comes Paolo Banchero and everybody just freaks out in Kia. That would be so much fun, but that will never happen.
Yeah, at forward and he's just got a hood on at forward and everyone thinks it's Tristan or whatever. It's and he takes the hood off. Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, we've never talked about this. What is your take on like his Paolo's pregame chest bump with stuff? To me, it's one of my favorite things ever.
I think it's great. Of course,
it's amazing.
Yeah. I'm very pro stuff around here. As you can tell if you're watching here, you got stuff underwear for goodness sake. I'm a big fan of stuff, and so any kind of interactions with stuff, players, fans, whatever, sign me up.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're looking forward to the NBA Cup. It would be awesome to see the Magic advance in that because in like a single game elimination tournament, anybody has a chance. Like the Lakers won it last year. So obviously, they weren't great in the regular season, but everybody has a chance. What is going on with this? I'm waiting to see what's up with this Philadelphia-Charlotte game.
There was a very long review. Of course
there was.
And so right now, Charlotte's inbounding with 15 seconds to go in overtime, and they couldn't get the inbound in, so they just took another timeout.
All right. Well, we're just going to go into the state of the Magic, and what I say here may not reflect reality right now, but as the time of this recording, we'll just go through this. We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from our sponsors. First up, our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken, and one of our very favorite segments that we do each week is the Jam of the Week, where we go over the Magic's best dunk from the past week of games. We are going to go back to Sunday night. We're headed to the 7-minute and 3-second mark in the third quarter. Goga Bitadze sets the pick for Franz Wagner up at the top of the key. The Magic are up by 10. Franz heads down the left side of the lane. Goga Bitadze, untouched, rolls to the rim. Franz Wagner goes up to make the left-handed layup. It bounces off the side of the rim, and Goga Bitadze goes up with the right hand over Alex Sarr for the putback dunk. The crowd goes wild. 18-point lead. Goga Batadze runs down the court, little motorcycle thing, which you always love to see. That is this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. And speaking of Jam Hot Chicken is bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Jam Hot Chicken is a Nashville and LA hot chicken shack, or LA inspired hot chicken shack, rather, locally owned and operated in Winter Park, Florida, located over there at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. Check them out on all social media at Jam Hot Chicken and at jamhotchickenfl.com to access the menu, online ordering, music playlists, and all things Jam Hot. And now you can even order Jam Hot Chicken on Uber Eats. So if you're local to that Winter Park area, you don't want to leave the house, but you want that delicious, spicy, awesome hot chicken from Jam Hot Chicken, you can order that now on Uber Eats.
This episode is also brought to you by our Improv 221, Ellis, Phil Fulton, ESPN Really Sucks, and Cannibalism. They are 5 of our amazing Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons. Who are our patrons? They are the people that financially support the Six Man Show. They make all of these things possible, from the episodes to watch parties to the gear that we use to the fancy new logos we have, everything in between. It's all made possible because of our patrons. They believe in not just the content that we bring out, they believe in our mission, which is to bring new Orlando Magic fans and unite this community together. And so definitely a big shout out to all of our patrons. If you'd like to become a patron and support the Six Man Show, you can find us at patreon.com/the Sixth Man Show, where you can find several different tiers that you can choose from to help financially support the show and further our mission of, again, just raising up this fan base, uniting Magic fans together. And hey, we want Orlando to be a Magic city, right? That's what we want. We want this town to fall in love with basketball again. And so if you believe in that as well, definitely check us out at, like I said, patreon.com/the Sixth Man Show. And now back to the episode.
This week, the Magic went 2-2 with road losses, opened up the week in OKC and Indiana, and then came back home to close the week with blowout wins over New Orleans and Washington. They are right now at 5-6, winners of 2 in a row, and the Magic are sitting at 4th in the East at the time of this recording. If Charlotte wins, that will change, but if Philadelphia wins, the Magic will stay 4th in the Eastern Conference. Right now, they are 6 games back of first place Cleveland, 4 games back of second place Boston, a game and a half back of the 3rd seed Indiana. We're tied with the New York Knicks, the Charlotte Hornets as of right now, and we are half game up on Brooklyn, Chicago, Miami, and we're a full game up rather on Detroit in Atlanta. So the Eastern Conference standings are going to continue to change on a night in and night out basis for probably the foreseeable future. On the season so far, the Magic have been 25th in offensive rating, so they moved up from where they were last week. They were 29th. Now we're 25th in offensive rating with an offensive rating of 109 points per 100 possessions. And the Magic are up from, I believe it was 8th or 5th on our last episode in defensive rating. Now they're up to 3rd in defensive rating with a defensive rating of 106.8, and they're 14th in the NBA in net rating with a positive net rating of 2.2. Kevin, let's talk about this just for a quick beat here. I don't feel like the Magic have played anywhere near their potential defensively this season, and yet they're still sitting at 3rd in defensive efficiency.
Yeah, I agree on the whole, but this team, I think, has played up to their potential defensively in stretches.
Yeah.
I think we've seen flashes of it, and we've been like, yeah, that's Orlando Magic basketball. But I would agree that, I don't think we've put a stretch. I don't think we've put 48 minutes together, really. Much less a stretch of games.
I don't think we've put 24 minutes together. It's been like 6-minute spurts throughout games.
Yeah. And so on the one hand, you're like, come on. But on the other hand, it's like, hey, that definitely makes you feel good. And again, when you talk about the state of the Magic, whether you're talking about the net rating or the defensive rating or whatever, or even just the standings, the Magic have been so incredibly fortunate with what is happening around, especially the Eastern Conference, but really the NBA as a whole. Like, the Magic are not the only team dealing with injuries. I mean, even this weekend, the teams we played, New Orleans, are you kidding me? All the injuries they're dealing with. I know it's a Western Conference team, obviously. But then, tonight playing the Wizards, they've got injuries. This week, the teams we're playing this week, Indiana on Wednesday, they're missing several guys. Like, all of that has combined to just a garbage pile of an Eastern Conference right now. And so the fact that the Magic are 1 game under 500 and sit not just as the 4 seed, but a half game out of 3rd, and only 2 games, 2 or 3 games, whatever it is, behind Boston. 4 games. Okay, whatever. You're still 4 games back of the 2 seed. So all of that to say, the Magic haven't played their best basketball, and yet they're still within striking distance is pretty cool.
And yeah, like you said, I guess some standings have updated since I ran all this, but yeah, just a half game back of Indiana, not a game and a half. So yeah, you're right there. And you win, Indiana loses. Taking a look at the division records, you'd have the upper hand there because the head to head right now is tied. So yeah, the Magic can get a win on Tuesday. The Pacers take a loss, tomorrow or Tuesday, the next time that they play. Then you're third in the Eastern Conference. So yes, the Magic have been very fortunate, but we have a saying in golf for all my golfers out there. Even if you don't necessarily hit a good shot, but you get like a good bounce off the cart path or it hits a tree and it bounces into the fairway, we always say we take those. This is an instance like we will take this, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what our record is. We're sitting steady in the playoff race. That's all you can ask for.
By the way, just want to confirm, congratulations to Philadelphia 76ers for getting their second win of the season tonight. They did just beat the Charlotte Hornets in overtime, which means your Orlando Magic are the 4 seed right now at 5-6, which is pretty wild. But yeah, that's the final score there in Philadelphia.
What's pretty crazy is we're probably like maybe a game back of the 2 seed if we're healthy right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Pretty crazy thing to think about. But I mean, you could say that for a lot of teams.
Right. Now, if I just add one more, whatever the opposite of silver lining is, the teams at the bottom of the East, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, who knows what's going to happen with them? Obviously, they have talent, but they're both in crazy, crazy situations right now. The non-silver lining is we're only 2.5 games up on those guys. We're actually 2 games now that Philadelphia just won. So if they were to figure out whatever the heck's going on with them, only having a 2-game lead after their terrible starts isn't great. But, they've got a lot. As bad as the Magic have been, I'm glad I'm not a Milwaukee fan. I cannot imagine like the mess that they're dealing with. They don't have injuries to blame. Like they're just freaking 2-8.
And they're 1-7 against the Eastern Conference.
Oh my god.
It's pretty crazy.
Man. Anyway,
it's got to feel good to be a Cleveland fan right about now.
Oh man, they're crazy, man.
Good grief. Good
Last night, Saturday, they had to come back from like down 12 in the fourth quarter against Brooklyn, and somehow once again found a way. They're 11-0, man. They're impressive. It makes our loss to them in Cleveland feel maybe a little bit better, especially without Paolo and stuff. So yeah.
Speaking of being without Paolo, let's take a look at the injury report. Paolo Banchero still out with the torn oblique. Again, he'll be reevaluated, beginning to mid-December. Wendell Carter Jr. has missed the past 4 games with the left plantar fascia strain, and Jonathan Isaac left Friday's game with right hamstring tightness, and he was questionable and then probable going into Sunday's game, and he ended up playing and being available and playing 19 minutes on Sunday, and he was moving around pretty well. So that was definitely a welcome sight. Thought for sure, and what we've seen in the past with JI is when he's had sort of nagging injuries like any type of soreness or any type of tightness, usually that's like a multi-game absence from JI. So the fact that, he missed a little bit of time in what really wasn't like consequential minutes, and we'll talk about that on Friday against New Orleans, but the fact that he was able to play Sunday and played, significant minutes is obviously great. Let's go ahead and jump into Friday's game against the New Orleans Pelicans. Magic with the 115-88 win. But in my opinion, Kevin, the game wasn't quite that close. This game was very reminiscent of the Chicago game from a couple of weeks ago, where you're up 20 in the first half, but then they close that gap. You're up 10 at halftime, and then they cut the lead to like 5, like late in that third before the Magic really just went on a run, and it felt like New Orleans sort of like ran out of gas. Right, like Brandon Boston and Jose Alvarado, those guys had really big games for the New Orleans Pelicans. But obviously, like no Zion Williamson, no Herb Jones in this game. Just a really depleted New Orleans Pelicans team. But all that being said, to the Magic's credit, they took care of business late in that third and into the fourth. And 6-7 minutes to go in that fourth quarter, you knew that this game was over. So it wasn't. I tweeted this before the game when we saw that so many of the Pelicans guys were going to be out. Like, I don't care if it's ugly. You just have to find a way to win the game. And they did do that. And it wasn't necessarily ugly, but I wouldn't, like, when you look at this being a 27-point victory, in my opinion, it didn't really feel like that. What did you think?
Yeah. on the one hand, when you're coming to a game with a 5-game losing streak, you just win at all costs. Like you said, doesn't matter. Ugly, nice. At the same time, though, I know it's the NBA. It happens all the time. We've seen, fortunately, all around the league, especially I feel like this season already, like so many blown leads, like so many. We've seen a 31-point lead lost, already this season. And so good thing is it's part of the NBA. However, when you're playing against a team like New Orleans, who is so depleted, we didn't even mention CJ McCollum still out, obviously, for them. So, the fact that you're coming against that starting 5 of Alvarado, Boston Jr., Macy, Robinson, Earl, and then, of course, Brandon Ingram, you'd like to see the team be able to, like, sustain that lead. Once you get the lead, I know we're missing guys too, but once you get that lead, sustain it. It is the NBA. It's a game of runs. It's going to happen. So if I had to nitpick something, however, the fact that they were able to pull away in the fourth quarter and it ended up it being comfortable win, that's huge, right? Because, you talked about the Chicago game. That's not what happened. The first 3 quarters basically felt the same way. The fourth quarter of the Chicago game was a disaster, right? Magic couldn't buy a bucket, let Chicago, end up winning that game. Versus Friday night against New Orleans, that's when the Magic were able to find a different gear again and pull away. So definitely proud of that, proud of the effort, proud of the home fans. Again, at that point, it was just find a freaking way. I don't care. Into this losing streak. Let's hear the song. And so, yeah, definitely glad they were able to do that.
And the Magic really just did a good job of defending, especially, in that first half and into the fourth quarter. You hold New Orleans to 38% from the floor, 32% from behind the arc. It wasn't like the Magic totally tore the lid off the basket at Kia with the way that they've been struggling shooting. Now, they did shoot 52% from the floor in this game, but were 8 of 32, 25% from behind the arc. Don't love seeing that. But 17 of 21 at the free throw line. You do like to see that. Franz Wagner getting to the line 8 times. AB getting to the line 4 times. Gary Harris even getting to the line 3 times. Definitely need to see some of that. And on 45 made field goals, you had 28 assists. And the Magic just completely bullied New Orleans on the glass. Part of it was just like New Orleans really didn't have a ton of size to be able to match up with the Magic. But Franz Wagner, strong game, 27 points, 9 of 18 from the floor, 2 of 5 from behind the arc. The 7 of 8 at the free throw line, added 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. There's always narrative around Franz Wagner, it seems like. Ever since we drafted Paolo, people are usually pretty happy with the way that Paolo's playing. And Franz, it's like the opinions around Franz just seem to kind of ebb and flow. And there is a narrative that Franz plays really well against bad teams, doesn't always show up in the big games against good teams. And there is some evidence, both ways when it comes to this. But we've been talking Franz needs to step up. In Paolo's absence, somebody needs to be taking 20 plus shots a game. We need him scoring, 20 plus points per game, doing so efficiently. And he did so in this game. And I'm going to talk a little bit about really his performance overall this year as we get into talking about the Washington game as well. Another game where, he did play really well. But Mo Wagner, we've talking about another guy that needs to step in off the bench. 17 points, 8 of 11 from the floor. This was the Wagners just taking it to the Pelicans. And like you said, much needed win. Happy to get the win at home.
Yeah, and you talked about shooting 52% from the field. Obviously, like you said, 25% from 3, not great. But part of the reason you shoot 52% from the field, the Magic had 74 points in the paint. 74 points. The Magic were doing pretty much whatever they wanted. And honestly, you can look at that in Mo Wagner's numbers. 8 of 11 from the field. He only took 1 3. So he went 7 of 10 from 2. And he's not taking middies. We know Mo. He's not taking middies. He's just living at the rim.
It's at the rim.
That's right. And if it is a midi, it's off 1 foot like Dirk, Outside of that, he's living at the rim. And so, Magic were able to do whatever they wanted pretty much all night. Again, if you got to pick apart certain things this game, like you said, 3-point shooting, especially our starters, the starting guards, I should say, they combined for 1 of 10 between Jalen and KCP. Not great. You could also look at Jalen's turnovers, 5 turnovers on Friday night. I should have pulled it up. He had a turnover-ridden week. I'll put it that way for Jalen, which is not something you love to see, especially because a lot of those were part of New Orleans' comeback there in the second and third quarter. So not a perfect game, but yeah, at that point, just find a way to win once you've lost 5 in a row.
Yeah. let's talk about tonight's game, Sunday night's game against the Washington Wizards. Not a team like riddled with injuries necessarily, but just like a young team that's still like very much in like development mode and trying to find their way, trying to find their identity. And this game was different than the Friday's game against New Orleans, where like this game, it felt like the Magic were in complete control, basically, from start to finish. Never really felt like Washington truly threatened the Magic. A big part of that was Franz Wagner in this game. He doesn't even play really in the fourth quarter, but 23 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and a steal from him. And again, Mo Wagner, 16 points off the bench, 5 of 12 from the floor. And Cole Anthony, only 15 minutes. Some of this wasn't garbage time, but 16 points. Like I looked up at one point, I'm like, Cole's 2 of 3 from the field, and he had like 12 points. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, he's 8 of 8 from the free throw line, like just getting to the line, like really attacking the basket, in the minutes that he got. Had a really, he hit a couple of threes, but had a really deep one on Alex Sarr, I think it was, with the shot clock winding down, and then like runs over and is like staring at Jamal Mosley, staring at the bench, like big smile on his face, just being able to like contribute in a real way, playing with joy, having that, kind of that Cole Anthony swagger that we're accustomed to. It's just, it's a couple of games now. He had played, well against New Orleans as well in a few minutes, but we need to see him stack these kinds of games. Tristan Da Silva still in the starting unit, 11 points, 2 of 5 from behind the arc. We've just got to be able to find ways to continue to get him looks. Didn't shoot the ball well against New Orleans, was 1 of 7, but bounced back 2 of 5. You love to see that. Jalen with another rough game. Basically, like in the first 3 quarters, just dealing with foul trouble. Only played 18 minutes in this one because of the foul trouble. 5 points, 4 turnovers, and 4 personal fouls in the game. Goga Batadze, we'll talk a little bit about Goga, but double-double, 10 points, 12 rebounds, some big offensive rebounds in this game. And then Anthony Black in 22 minutes, 12 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, was 4 of 6 from the floor, 2 of 6 from behind the arc. Just a really dominant game from the Magic in this one.
Yeah, and you hope to see that, like you said, against this Wizards team. This box score, if you just look at the box score, once we heard that Paolo went down, this is about what I hoped we would get most nights, right? Not necessarily, 121 points. That's on the higher end for the Magic, but like the balance, the fact that the Magic had 6 players in double figures. When you hear Paolo's going out, you're thinking, obviously, Franz is going to lead the way, which he did tonight with 23. But then you're hoping on any given night, there's going to be 4 or 5 other guys that can hit double figures and help balance out the rest of the stat sheet. And so to see that tonight, quite literally the first time we've had this since Paolo's been out, like this kind of balance where you've had so many guys in double figures and so many guys playing well. The Magic shot the ball from 3 at about league average tonight, so that's a major improvement. They took 48 threes, which may be too many, but sometimes once you get into second half garbage time, which basically most of the second half was, that's going to happen sometimes. But 17 of 48 from 3, crushed it on the free throw line, 22 of 25. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, on the whole, not a whole lot to pick apart from this game. Really impressive performance. The Magic had a job to do against a certainly inferior opponent, even without Paolo. And just, definitely glad they were able to do it.
And like I said, this game never really felt like the Magic were in any type of trouble, right? Like going back, like Washington's biggest lead was 3 towards the beginning of the game. And, the Magic would go on a run and Washington would get it back down to like 11 or 10. But then in that third quarter, as soon as like 3 started falling, I think we hit like 3 straight threes. I know Anthony Black had one, Gary hit one. I think Mo Wagner then had like a layup and then hit another 3 right after that. Like that stretch in the third quarter really like blew the game open for us.
Yeah.
And then Chet Howard, of course, comes in garbage time and just like 3 straight threes, like right off the bat. It's like, dude, why can't you just do that in meaningful minutes? And we won't talk a ton about that, but obviously with Jet right now, it's like, it's great that you can do that in garbage time. But if you can't come in and do that in regular minutes, you have to defend. And if you're not doing either of those, you're not going to see the floor. So for me, it's like we need to find a way to make that confidence translate, right? Because with Jet, I think you could probably live with the defense if he's doing this for you offensively.
Yeah.
But if he's not, and he's not defending, then he's hurting you really badly. So they need to find a way to translate that confidence that he has in garbage time into real minutes, because he has something about him that nobody else on the roster does. Nobody else, I don't care if it's in garbage time or not, nobody can do this consistently. We've seen Jet do this like 2 or 3 times this year already. Like, have to find a way to be able to harness that, I think, eventually.
Well, here's the problem with Jet now is Cole's had 2 good games in a row.
Okay. That's what happens when you don't play well.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Cole was given his DNPs, and all that stuff, and 2 good games in a row. Again, bad opponents. So we'll have to wait and see how he does this week. 3 really important games. Every game's important, but you know what I'm saying. And so, we'll have to wait and see. But as far as I'm concerned, it looks like Cole Anthony's got his leash is gone now. He's back. He's free roaming. He was the first guy off the bench tonight, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure he was. I guess that was the whole ovation that the team gave and everything, or one of the first guys off the bench. I can't remember, but it was awesome to see that bench unit. Like once Cole got the call, that was really fun. So it's tough for Jet. Like you said, get your opportunity. Wasn't able to make the most of it, and now he's forced to garbage time again. But hey, this is the NBA. There's going to be a lot of injuries, a lot of reasons guys are going to be out. He's going to get another chance. It's just a matter of time, and hopefully he'll be ready for it.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I really like quickly, this has been brought up, on the last couple of post-game lives, and it's all over, social media, the Goga conversation again.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to defend him just like not being in the lineup, like once Wendell comes back. This is now each of the last 2 seasons, Wendell has gone out, Goga Bitadze's placed into the starting lineup, and like has really like overperformed what we have expected, I think. And when you look at like the on-off numbers, it's really hard to argue Wendell not being on the floor. Like he by far and away has the best point differential on the team, out of anybody playing significant minutes this year. But it's also like, are we going to keep doing this thing with Wendell where it's just like every time he's on the floor, it's just like a ticking time bomb to where, and at that point, when he is out of the lineup, well, now you're disrupting everything all over again. So it's just because of the amount of money that you're paying Wendell and like what the like numbers tell you his impact is when he's on the floor, especially playing with the starters. It is hard to make the conversation, but it doesn't feel like there's a real win-win situation for everybody in this scenario.
Yeah, Mosley's in a borderline impossible spot. Obviously, we don't know how long Wendell's going to be out. When the time comes that he does come back, now if the Magic are free falling and aren't playing well and they need a boost of some kind, you could definitely see him making that change. But if the Magic are still playing well, if Goga's still playing well, if he's contributing positively to maybe not a win every night, but keeping the Magic in games every night, that's where it's just like, what do you do with that, right? Like you're like you said, paying this guy all this money. And then the flip side of it is it's not like you just put him as the backup necessarily right away, because Mo Wagner in that bench unit, some nights they're playing pretty well. The last couple nights they have. But once again, if that unit's struggling, do you put Wendell in as the new backup? Maybe. It's a tough spot. But I do certainly trust, and he's proven this time and time again, if something's working, Mosley's not going to touch it. If Wendell comes back healthy, let's say he comes back tomorrow, Magic won 2 in a row, Goga's played well, doing really important things for this team. He's not just going to thrust Wendell in there. He's going to ride the hot hand until it cools off. So I definitely trust Mosley with that. But yeah, it's definitely a tough spot for him to be in.
Let's talk a little bit about Franz. If you take away the games where he missed significant time, like the first Indiana game, the Chicago game, the Indiana game where like he tries to play, has to come out, the Chicago game where he like played like 22 minutes but really didn't play at all in crunch time, which tells you like that illness, whatever it was still affecting him. Still small sample size, but I do feel that it's important to realize that he was not anywhere near 100% in those games. So if you remove those from the equation, on the season, he's averaging 23 points, 5.8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.4 steals, shooting 47% from the floor, 33.7% from behind the arc, and 80% at the free throw line. Averaging almost 23, 6, and 5, 1.5 steals. Again, 47% from the floor, which is about average for Franz, and 33.7% from behind the arc. You probably you want to see it be a little bit better than that. But when he was like in the 20s all of last season, we would have killed for him to be shooting almost 34% from behind the arc. We've been talking about how Franz needs to step up and he needs to take the reins and the responsibility while Paolo is out. He is doing that. I still think there's another level that he could get to and like play even better and a little bit more consistently. But I feel like for the most part, Franz has stepped up the way that we've needed him to during this stretch. Now, it's easy to say when you're 2-5 in your last 7 games, right? All of those without Paolo. But not all of those without Paolo. The Chicago game on, or the Cleveland game on without Paolo. But like it's mostly been like we haven't had like that second, third, and fourth guys step up alongside of Franz. And it does feel like in a couple of those games, if you have that, you're able to pull out wins. So what have your thoughts been about Franz?
Yeah, I think he's kind of grown into it a little bit, right? Like the first few games, one of the things we talked about was just the lack of aggression and the lack of, even just overall volume. Like we wanted him taking more shots. And obviously we wished it was kind of their day one with that. But, like you said, he was also still coming back from the illness and all those things. So the fact that now, we do see him being more aggressive, loved how aggressive he was Friday, especially against New Orleans, especially that first quarter. What do you have? 17, 19, something like that in the first quarter. I love the first quarter. I wish he continued a little bit more of that in the second half. That's kind of in part why New Orleans was able to get back into that game. But that first quarter from Franz was the best that we've seen him, especially with Paolo out, and especially just in terms of aggression and assertiveness and all those things. And so I think he's definitely finding his rhythm or found his rhythm. Obviously, shooting the basketball could always be better with him right now, but the aggression is there. What's going to be interesting for me is as this schedule kind of changes and we go into a different level of opponent. Now, not necessarily a level, we've already played Indy just this past week, with Franz in this situation, but you got Charlotte on Tuesday. Different opponent we haven't seen before, but a higher stakes, if you will. It's the NBA Cup. Now, it's not the playoffs. We're not going to sit here and pretend like this is something huge, but it's something different. Indiana on the second night of back-to-back. And then Friday, playing Philadelphia. Philadelphia, obviously, like we know, is a mess, but they've got big names. What will Franz do, as far as that goes? He's going to be probably guarded by Paul George in some stretches, who is still an adequate defender at the least. And so I want to see him continue this aggression this week. Like, these are big games. This is when we really need him with Paolo out. I want to see him. I still want to see him take at least 18 shots a night. Like, anything less than that, I'm not happy. Probably more like 20. And so if he can keep that up, keep guys involved, 7 assists tonight, I think it'll be a good recipe for the Magic.
Yeah. And I just keep coming back to the fact that, yes, the shooting has been terrible, but it has to turn around at some point. Like, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, 7 if you include Wendell, 7 guys shooting below 30% from behind the arc. Like that, yeah. I don't care how bad you think this team is at shooting, that is not going to continue.
Right.
And that's going to be the big equalizer for this Magic team. As long as they're playing without Paolo, it's going to come, like most nights are going to come down to how well did you shoot from behind the arc. If you're average or better, you're going to have a chance to be in these games. If you're nowhere near average, you're just not going to win them. Like that, it's crazy to say that, but maybe it's not crazy. Like this team is going to go as they shoot from behind the arc. We know they're going to get looks at the rim. There's going to be times where, they settle if they're lagging behind. It's like football. You get behind, you stop running the ball. You're just throwing the ball. These guys get behind, they start chucking from behind the arc. Or if they get up big and they get a little bit too confident, then they start to settle as well. But this team just needs to lock in defensively. I still think there are multiple gears that this team can get to. Like we see, 5-6 minute stretch where they look awesome, but like I'm waiting. It's like, hey, you remember when like this team scored 40 points combined, or they scored 40 points in the second half because the Magic just like completely locked them down? I want to see that more consistently. We've seen it at times, but I think they have another level to get to. And I think part of that is the shooting. You make a team just take the ball out of the basket over and over and over again, and you're able to get set on the other side of the floor, that's just going to help them improve on that end as well. So start knocking down some shots. Yes, the opponents are the schedule is going to be a little bit tougher. But like if this team can get anywhere close to where they should be shooting, and that's league average, it's not anything elite by any measure, but I think they're going to be doing pretty well, Kevin. Anything less? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry. This was game 11 tonight. Okay. So this whole shooting thing, it is a statistical anomaly for sure when you compare it to these guys' careers and you compare it to the NBA and all those things. But like, how much longer are we going to do this? Right? Like 11 games is...
Dude, I'm not entertaining that because there's no way it's this bad. It can't be. I know what you're saying. It's like a decent size, like sample size at this point, but I refuse to accept that this is our reality.
Of course. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just like, what? How much longer are we going to be tortured with this? Like,
Dude,
like what in the world? Even at home, like Friday against New Orleans, like what is that? It's hard. We talked about it a lot, I think, on the last episode, so I'm not going to go crazy again. It's just hard to believe. And I feel like at any moment it's going to end. And tonight was a step in the right direction, so I'll give them that. But it's just the strangest thing, man. I don't get it, and I hope it's over very soon.
Yeah, it's definitely not great. Okay, before we get close to wrapping this thing up, we do have to talk about the week ahead. So coming up this week, you got a back-to-back, because why not? Of course, you have another back-to-back. Tuesday, you've got Charlotte at home, part of the first NBA Cup game, or NBA Cup group games. And then Wednesday, you see Indiana again. I'm trying to think, like, we don't see Indiana after Wednesday. We don't see them again until April 11th.
Right.
The second to last game of the entire season. So, like last year, where it was like you got the Lakers twice in the first couple of weeks, and then you don't see them again. Like, we're here yet again with Indiana. And then Friday, you're at home, your second NBA Cup group game versus Philadelphia. What do you think happens this week?
My head says one thing, my heart says another. I'm going to go with my heart this week. I'm going to go 3-0.
I'm going 3-0. Let's go. I need it, man.
You're so easily influenced.
I don't have a lot right, like going right in my life at the moment.
Same.
Like I need these guys to go 3-0. I really do.
Oh man, it's so funny. Like I said, like Wednesday night, you ask me, and I'm like, oh, we're cooked 1-2. But you get these 2 wins under your belt. The whole home atmosphere thing just can't be overstated. Like this is it's true of a lot of, well, all the NBA teams, but especially younger teams. Like something about being at home, and this team is taking advantage. I think it's benefited a lot. The Magic have had 2 very beatable opponents to start this homestand, get a little bit of momentum, help kind of recover from that 5-game losing streak. And so, like I said, this is where it kind of gets a little more interesting at home. And I'm going 3-0 just because I freaking feel like it. Let's go.
Yeah. And I do think, like, if there's any time for this team to break out of this shooting slump, it's a 5-game homestand to do that. Friday, you didn't shoot the ball well, but you're like, hey, we almost beat these guys by 30 and we didn't shoot the ball well. We shot the ball okay on Friday or Sunday against Washington, and that's again almost a 30-point blowout. Like, let's just improve, each game, maybe 36, 37%, the next one, and just kind of keep it right around there. I do think Philadelphia is going to be interesting. Like, again, Paul George hasn't had the best start to the season. Joel Embiid hasn't really started the season.
Yeah.
No Maxey in that one. The Indiana game is going to be a lot of fun, I feel like, because those games have both been close. Right now, the winning team has won each of those first couple of matchups.
What'd you?
The winning team? No, the winning team, of course, has won. The home team has won each of those first couple of matchups, is what I meant to say. And we're home again, and there seems to be like this budding chippiness between these 2 teams, which I really appreciate, and it always makes for more of a fun game.
Right.
1-2 is entirely possible. 0-3 is entirely possible this week. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going with the heart pick. I'm saying 3-0. Probably wrong, but that's just how I feel right about now.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, the Indiana stuff's interesting. It's almost like a mini playoff series. Like 3, I think David said tonight, 3 times you play them in 15 days, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But that'll be interesting. Second night of back-to-back. Luckily, it's a home back-to-back. But hey, Magic fans, keep coming out. Keep making some noise. It's a big week. Glad to get some consecutive home games out there. And so, yeah, definitely make yourself heard this week.
Yeah. We talk about this every so often. It's obviously like the TV stuff that wouldn't allow teams to play like mini series against each other, right? Like you want to have 3 TNT games of like Boston and New York throughout the course of a season, and you're not going to be able to put Boston versus New York on TNT or on national TV like 3 times in a week. It's just not going to happen. So we'll never see that. But I always like when it feels like a baseball series. So
yeah.
But yeah, Kev, I think that's it. Anything that we missed, or can we go ahead and wrap this one up?
Yeah, I think so. Big week. It's going to be exciting. And you know what our reward is for this big week, Jonathan? Obviously, we'll have plenty of time to talk about this later, but just a little teaser for Magic fans out there. We go out west next week. After this week, out west. It'll be an adventure. Quick little 3-game West Coast road trip, which is weird, but hey,
so
we'll focus on this week first.
So we do it not this coming week, but the following week. And then we do it at the end of January, like right before the All-Star break.
That's right. I think it's Phoenix and the LA double, and then you're back home, which is kind of weird. But Phoenix without Kevin Durant. So we'll see how that goes. Be interesting. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, when do we go out to Golden State? And that's that January, February trip.
Right.
And of course, that is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game road trip where you end in
Denver.
Of course.
That's how the Magic always have to end really brutal road trips, is in Denver, because that's just the way it is. But hey, let's focus on this week. Charlotte, Indy, Philly, all at home. Let's enjoy it and see what happens.
All right, we're going to put a bow on this one. Again, thank you all for listening. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See you.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!